All right, so um, let's dive into something that I think a lot of us have probably experienced firsthand.
Yeah.
Picture this. You're at your desk, coffee's hot, ready to tackle those emails, and then all of a sudden, Microsoft 365 just decides to take a break.
Yeah.
No Outlook, no Teams calendar is just frozen. Your workday kind of grinds to a halt.
Yeah, it definitely threw a wrench in the plans for a ton of people.
Oh, yeah. So that's exactly what went down on November 25th, 2024. We had this major Microsoft outage that basically just sent these shockwaves, across the internet.
Right.
We've got a whole bunch of articles here breaking down the outage, how Microsoft tried to, scramble and fix it all, and some pretty interesting hints about what might have caused it. So I'm curious from your perspective, what was the biggest sort of ouch factor here?
Well, I think if you just look at the numbers, Down Detector had over 2,100 reports by like mid-morning Eastern time. And most of those were people saying that Outlook was down. And, Outlook, that's how people communicate. You know, businesses, individuals, it's a primary communication lifeline, and then it's just suddenly severed.
It's like the digital equivalent of everyone's phones just going dead at the exact same time.
Exactly.
No way to coordinate or collaborate or even send a
Uh,
quick message like, hey, I'm running late.
Yeah, and it wasn't just individuals feeling the pain either. The University of Galway in Ireland, they publicly announced that their systems were affected.
Wow.
So that just kind of shows you how widespread this outage really was.
So this is a global headache.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, what I find really interesting here is that Microsoft seemed to be pretty quick to point to a recent change
Mm.
as the potential cause.
Right.
And they even started rolling it back almost immediately.
Yeah, they acknowledged the issue on their Microsoft 365 X account, which was formerly Twitter, pretty early on. So that suggests that they had a good idea where the problem originated. And they also started doing manual restarts on the affected machines while they were deploying a permanent fix.
Manual restarts, huh? So it sounds like it was a little more complicated than just, flipping a switch.
It does raise some questions about just how complex their systems really are. You'd think with a cloud-based service you could push out fixes pretty seamlessly.
Right.
But obviously something else was going on.
Yeah, there were deeper dependencies there for
Yeah.
sure. So let's talk about this recent change. Any clues about what that might have been?
Well, this is where things get interesting. Do you remember Recall AI?
Oh, yeah, the one that was supposed to be like a super memory for your computer.
Exactly. It's supposed to take these snapshots of your activity so you can search through everything you've done. Really cool in theory, but this initial version actually caused a lot of privacy and security concerns back in May, which is probably why they delayed the full launch.
Okay, so we've got this potentially resource-intensive feature rolling out the same day as this massive outage. Are you suggesting a connection?
Well, it's definitely something to consider. I mean, Recall AI, just by its nature, is going to demand a lot from a
Right.
system.
Right.
It's always capturing data, processing it, indexing it for those searches.
Right.
What if that extra load just kind of tipped the scales and caused this cascade effect that brought down other services?
Hmm.
It's possible.
Yeah, it's a really interesting possibility. It makes you think about the trade-offs between innovation and stability, right?
Yeah.
Like pushing the boundaries and making sure things actually work.
Right.
So even if Recall AI wasn't the only culprit, it's possible that it played a role.
Yeah, I think it highlights the potential risks that come with these rapid technological advancements, especially when you're integrating them into these systems that millions of people rely on every single day.
Absolutely. And it's a good reminder that even the giants,
Right.
even the big tech companies can stumble.
For sure.
Yeah. You know what really strikes me is the human impact here. Over 320 million people use Microsoft Teams every single month.
That's a crazy number of people that were suddenly cut off from their usual workflow and just communication channels in general.
And for those of us who really, live and breathe in that Microsoft ecosystem, this was a major disruption.
Yeah, we take these tools for granted, and then something like this happens, and you realize just how much we rely on them in our day-to-day lives, both professionally and personally. It's easy to just focus on the technical side of things, but at the end of the day, this is about people.
Yeah.
This is about people's ability to connect and collaborate and get things done. And it's not just the inconvenience either. Imagine you're running a small business.
Right.
You rely on Teams to communicate, Outlook for email, SharePoint for sharing files. And then suddenly all of that just stops working. You can't talk to your clients, invoices can't get sent, projects get delayed. The financial impact can be huge.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's easy to forget, behind all this tech jargon, there are real people whose livelihoods are being affected. Like
Wow.
we're talking about lost revenue, missed deadlines, damage to their reputation. It's serious stuff.
Exactly. And it raises these questions about, how much we rely on these cloud-based services. What are the backup plans when these services just fail?
So this outage is kind of shining a light on the vulnerability of putting all of our eggs in one basket.
Exactly. It's like we're relying on one bridge to get to work every day,
Right.
and then that bridge collapses and you're stuck. Having different routes, or in this case, different platforms and tools, can really help reduce the impact of these things happening.
Okay, so what would that look like in practice? Are we talking about having a separate email provider, a different chat app,
Yeah.
a backup system for file sharing?
It could mean, diversifying the tools you use. Maybe you use a different video conferencing platform for some of your meetings or explore open source alternatives for certain tasks.
Right.
It's about knowing what you absolutely need and having backup options just in case.
Right.
And it's not just about, individuals being prepared. Businesses, schools, organizations, they need to be proactive about building more robust systems that can handle these kinds of shocks.
So like a digital safety net.
Yeah.
If Microsoft stumbles again, you've got that plan B ready to go.
Exactly. Think of it like a digital fire drill. You don't wait for a fire to happen to figure out how to get out.
Right. That's a great analogy.
Hmm.
But I mean, isn't all that really complicated and expensive? Especially for, individuals and smaller companies.
There are definitely costs involved, but there are also some open source and affordable solutions out there. And you kind of have to weigh those costs against, the potential losses from an outage like this.
Yeah.
And there are also things that everyone can do that are really simple and don't require a lot of money. Like backing up your important files regularly, either locally or to a separate cloud service.
So backing up is kind of like having a digital insurance policy.
Yeah.
You might not need it every day, but you're sure glad you have it when things go wrong.
Exactly. And
Right.
and this outage with Microsoft, as disruptive as it was, could actually end up being a good thing in the long run. It's a wake-up call. It makes us think critically about how much we rely on these digital services and take steps to make our digital lives more resilient.
So it's a chance to learn and be better prepared the next time this happens.
Right.
And, knowing our luck, there will be a next time. But it's not just about bracing for the worst.
Right.
This is also an opportunity to push for some positive change.
Absolutely. We need to demand more from our tech providers. We need more transparency, more accountability. When these outages happen, we need to know why it happened
Right.
and exactly what they're doing to fix it.
Yes. Give us some specifics.
Yeah, instead of just recent change.
Right. It feels like we're often left in the dark trying to figure things out from these really vague updates.
Yeah, we need to demand these robust systems that are designed to handle failures.
Right.
Redundancy failover mechanisms, rigorous testing. These are all important parts of a digital infrastructure that can actually withstand these problems.
It sounds like we need a shift in mindset,
Yeah.
both individually and as a society.
Mhm.
Instead of just accepting these outages as these inevitable hiccups,
Right.
we need to start demanding better.
Yeah, and I think that starts with recognizing that these hiccups have real-world consequences. For some people, it might just be a day of frustration and lost productivity.
Right.
But for others, it could be lost income, missed opportunities, or even, jeopardize safety in certain situations.
It's easy to feel powerless when something like this happens.
Yeah.
Like it's just the cost of doing business in a digital world.
Right.
But you're saying that we're not totally helpless.
Absolutely not. We have a voice and we need to use it. When these outages happen, don't just complain to your colleagues.
Right?
Make your frustration known to the companies that are responsible.
We're talking about going beyond just, venting on social media.
Right. Use social media strategically to raise awareness, but also reach out directly to customer support, leave reviews, engage in public forums.
Right.
Let them know that these disruptions are not acceptable and that you expect better.
So it's about holding them accountable for the services they provide
Exactly.
and the impact that these outages have.
Right.
Okay. So beyond just voicing our concerns, is there anything else we can do?
Well, we can also support organizations and initiatives that are working to improve digital resilience.
Okay.
There are groups out there advocating for stronger cybersecurity standards, promoting open source alternatives, and researching ways to build more, decentralized and robust digital infrastructure.
So it's about putting our money where our mouth is and supporting the kind of digital future that we want to see.
Yeah.
A future where these outages are less frequent, less disruptive, and maybe even, dare I say, a thing of the past.
That's the goal. It's ambitious, but I don't think it's impossible. And events like this Microsoft outage, they can be a catalyst for change.
Yeah.
They force us to confront our vulnerabilities, reevaluate our priorities, and start demanding better.
It's a reminder that we're not just passive consumers of technology.
Right.
We can shape the digital world.
Absolutely. And technology is incredibly powerful, but it's also important to remember that it's a tool.
Right.
It's created by humans for humans.
Right.
And any tool, it needs to be used responsibly, maintained properly, and constantly improved upon.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one key takeaway you want our listeners to walk away with?
Don't be afraid to ask questions, demand better, and be a part of the solution.
Yeah.
The future of our digital world depends on it.
Well said. And remember, even in a world that's increasingly reliant on the cloud, we can still keep our feet firmly planted on the ground. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.